All right.
Okay, and we're live. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Portal 77. It's a lovely day. It's very intense energetically. And yeah, like hopefully we can talk about some awesome stuff or like what is happening. Also energetically, maybe physically as well, like also in our lives and collectively. And before we start the session, like I wanted to share, like if anyone is interested in our group activities, like we have a Patreon community where we have different group activities. We can connect to through more, yeah, like we can communicate much better than during these live events. Basically, we have different group activities, and next week we're going to have a channeling session where I bring through my guides and you can ask them your questions during the live Zoom meeting, basically. And also, if anyone is interested in the mystical arts like Hermetic teachings, alchemy, transmutation, then check out the teachings of Thoth the Atlantean. All the links are in the description. And I welcome you, higher vibrations. Thank you for joining us in this
Thank you.
beautiful evening to talk about these very important topics of like what's happening around the world basically right now, and especially like what is happening in our personal lives, like in our bodies, and like how can we best navigate this, because like everyone is in it, but majority of people that we know don't really understand consciously as what is happening in the world at large, and also with ourselves, like energetically and physically, because like we're changing on all levels. And I guess like we've been like placed in like families who don't really know, and like we're the ones who are like holding the light for them, or we're this guiding light for our community or for our family circles or so on and so forth. And like how can we best assist people with these challenging times that we're going through at this time?
Exactly. And we have this unique positioning throughout the planet where we're like perfectly spaced, and we do have that, as a result, have that experience of separation and just uniqueness and weirdness or whatever, just not having anyone else that is going through the same thing that you are, exactly because of that, the spacing. And as a result, these things like the Patreon community that Guardian has, it makes it so that experience is easier to do, like it's kind of, it feels like a bunch of reunions whenever we meet together. It's like the best. I don't have reunions like this, like that, in this experience to compare it to, but let's say it's like the best family reunion, or I don't know, school reunion or something, that you don't realize how much you get from it until you've left the meeting, and being able to do the moments before you so much easier, just knowing that you're not alone, that you're not the only one holding the light, that you're not the only one experiencing these weird things, and having someone else to compare notes to. So you're like, a lot of us have been through this longer than you. A lot of us have just started going through this, and you have experience to share with me. And so we have found along the way some tools to help alleviate certain symptoms and things that's happening to us. So anyway, that's just, whether you join Guardian's Patreon or one of the free Zoom meetings that happen, just participate. Chatting to each other in these comments, whether this is live or replay, is also a way to connect. A lot of us connected that way was through Guardian's channel and these lives and just sharing our emails. And before we knew it, we started doing Zoom meetings. Yeah. So please choose.
Yes, if anyone has like questions or you want to share your experiences, please do so in the chat box. Or if you're like listening to this during the replay, then you can comment on the videos and we will do our best to answer them as quickly as we can. I've fallen a bit behind on our last live event. I didn't have enough time to answer questions, but I'm doing my best to get it to everyone as fast as I can. Okay, so yeah, like should we like...
Just really quickly, me too. I apologize to my people on my channel. For those of you who are here, I just noticed I have like 93 messages that I haven't read, comments that I haven't read, and I apologize. I'm catching up slowly.
Yeah, like I'm usually very diligent on like doing them each day, but the past week I just absolutely had no time and energy to do them, sadly. But I'm going to get there. Okay, yes, and by the way, as you have mentioned, High Vibrations, she has her own YouTube channel, And I have added her link to her channel in the title of the video. And yeah, like you're having also free Zoom meetings where you can gather. Like I attended, I think like last week, and there were like 15 people there. It was very awesome, like like-minded souls meeting and coming together and like sharing what they're going through, basically. Trying to like find solutions for, I don't know, like for each individual's problems, or just basically just sharing what you're going through can really help through the whole process, since we're like so kind of isolated in this whole process, because like the majority of people around us, they are like they live in a different world than we do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
like that's
literally do.
yeah.
And
I think
also,
like that's a difficult part of it for us, at least.
it is. You're trying to exist in both places, and it stretches you in a weird way, you know. And something else about these Zoom meetings that we do is that, you know, all of us are coming online in different ways. We're like, I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing right now, whether it's a gift that you didn't have before, or it's becoming more and more strong and you are able to manipulate it easier now, something like that. All of us are having that experience. And so in these Zoom meetings, a lot of us are kind of practicing. And so you'll be sitting there and there'll be like light language happening and channeling. And we always do a healing at the end of every meeting. There's breakout rooms where people are doing dream interpretations, and like it's just a lot of community sharing. And this is all because we love and are service oriented beings, you know, and there's no judgment. And we already understand you don't have to explain yourself. That's my favorite part. Chatting with Guardian, although like we started like 2 years ago now, that was the same thing too, is I didn't have to explain myself. I didn't have to say all of that beginning part. I could just say, now I'm starting to see colors. And he knows I don't need to explain all that stuff, and that I don't need to go to a psychiatric facility either,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, like that's the cool part, because like we get it, like the people that you talk to, they get it, because like kind of we're going through the same stuff at the same time. Or like yeah, like even if you had your awakening like 20 years ago or 10 years ago, you're like we're like still repeating that pattern of like breaking down the old barriers and like reinventing yourself so you can like reach a next level. So if you're having difficulty in the beginning, then know that it kind of will continue to be that pattern later on too. But the difference is that you have your own formulas, and like you work out the way like how you can best transform yourself and how you can best transmute the difficulties and challenges in your life, basically.
Exactly.
And okay, so W had a question. Hi, Zoltan and Pamela. I have a question regarding the 7-7 message from Sirius. Do you have any tips on working with subtle energies? Like, do I have to take a workshop? Yeah, like I don't think you have to. I mean, I suppose like there are people who are doing those, but it's like a practice that you can do each day. And it basically, you learn to work with subtle energies through working with your own self, with your body and what you're feeling, what you're going through, the energies that you're sensing, and basically learning to discern over time, like what is mine and what is not mine. Since we're like so highly sensitive, we're also picking up on other people's stuff. Like if they're going through something, maybe a difficulty in their lives, if they're having a physical illness, or maybe they're just going through something and we like pick up on it, and you feel all of a sudden you feel some kind of pain or sickness out of nowhere, or you feel agitated for no reason, or even scared. Like I also had that. It was very strange. Like all of a sudden just feeling this fear out of nowhere. And I had to like realize in the beginning, like, oh, like this is not mine. Like it's not from me, basically.
Yeah.
And I think like that's kind of the first steps, is like learning to differentiate like what is yours and what's not yours. And it's kind of like, okay, like perceiving and feeling other people's stuff too, but you have to kind of be the observer, like not to fall into that pit maybe, or that low energy. Because usually when we like feel other people's stuff, or when it is very apparent that you're getting something from someone else, is when it's something negative. Like when you're feeling someone's joy or stuff like that, like I don't think that comes, I don't really notice that, or I don't take it negatively, like that's cool, basically.
Okay,
Well, like,
thanks.
yeah, like thank you for sharing your love with me.
Yeah.
But the problems are when yeah, like maybe someone is sick or they're having a difficult time and they're like transmitting those signals around us. And like not everyone can pick up on it, but we can.
Mhm.
And interesting stuff is that it works basically both ways. So just as we can like receive stuff, we're also sharing it much more intensely with people.
Yeah.
That's why so many people are attracted to us, like strangers out of nowhere are attracted to you to share their life story and
Yeah.
their problems for no reason at all, basically. But there's some part of their being knows that, okay, like that person can help me with this specific thing because they're so connected or something like that. And they're gravitate towards you, even though maybe they're not spiritually aware or they're not awakened, but a
Exactly.
part of their beings resonate with you and you're like very attractive to them for some reason,
Right.
even
And
though they
beyond
don't know why. Yeah.
beyond their logical understanding for sure. And they'll most often be saying over and over, I don't know why I'm telling you this, or I've never told anyone this, or you're a perfect stranger. I don't know why I'm telling you this. But they keep talking. They just, and like, it doesn't matter where you go, like you could be on the train, you could be at the store, you could be walking by yourself and they pull over and like want to ask you directions. Um, before I forget, I also, if you don't mind me interjecting
Yes.
about the subtle energies, the if it's possible for you, it's not possible for everyone to pull away that far, but what really helped me was like being away from everyone for a period of time. Like I think it was like day 3 that I really started to understand what my energy fully was. But I think that it took me that long because I didn't know what was happening, I just knew that I was at peace all of a sudden and I was happy. And um I did that by going into nature. I went camping, I went into the woods, and after a time, when you come back, remember that you're coming back into this new experience. And so be aware of the energies as you enter through them. We're not only just feeling other people, but we're feeling electronics, we're feeling different types of signals and radio waves and information that's coming from the higher realms and just all of this stuff. But you don't need to know what everything is, as long as you know what's not you, right? And that helps you to understand or to even to create a vocabulary with yourself about those types of things, and if you can't go into nature, go for a drive, and by yourself, and turn off the radio and just kind of be in that space of, this is what I feel like. You'd be surprised how positive and joyful you are in a natural state. It's actually shocking.
Yeah, that's exactly what like Gene asked, like how do we distinguish our thoughts from other people's energies more efficiently? And like creating this vocabulary of how like, yeah, like what do I feel like? And all the rest comes afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and also doing I know, like having your alone time, like retreating from all the busyness of the world and society, like that is like super helpful. Like even if you know your own energies, still if you like live in a very dense environment, then it can be like an overload on your senses after a while. Even if you're like doing your protection work, like even if I do it, like after a time, it's just kind of too much. Like especially if you have to interact with people on a daily basis, it can be too much. And you like attract too much energy inside of yourself. And you have to go in nature or do some kind of clearing on yourself to basically constantly keep yourself clean of everything that is not you, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because on top of that, you have your own stuff that you have to work on. Because like we are not here to like lay back and have nothing to do, basically just helping other people. Like we have inherited a lot of stuff too, also by being born in specific families, and we have to work on our stuff too. And since we're like so sensitive and able to assist others, we're like become entangled in other people's stuff too. And it kind of like adds to our basic, I don't want to say like problems, but like challenges each day. And after a time, it can be like an overloaded feeling, like it's too much after a time. And you have to like you have to do clearing as often as you can. If you had like interactions with people, especially if there were like interactions that are like very low vibrational, or if you're meeting people that you don't like, hey, it's 2222. If you're meeting people that you don't like and you want to avoid them, but still, I don't know, you have to have a family meeting or a business meeting, whatever. Yeah, like do clearing afterwards, like do a violet flame clearing or meditation, like visit regularly, I know, like go to sound clearing or some kind of sound therapy or something to help you out, basically. Because like you have to do regular maintenance on yourself. That's how we function, basically.
Nice. Something else
Okay.
that's really helpful is color therapy, using
Mhm.
color therapy, knowing the resonance of each color and kind of like bringing that into your spectrum. Something that I forget to mention that I do regularly is I wipe off the cords. We make connections with each other as we interact with one another, whether we do it in a lasting or meaningful way, or if it's a brief interaction. There's a cord of energy, like for that communication to occur. It's an energetic thing, and so I often physically like wipe off just as I'm putting in the intention that I'm cutting these cords. We're not connected, and like I do enjoy the connection, but it can, especially after doing a live event or these Zoom calls and stuff, I notice I look like a pincushion of these
Mhm.
cords. And like just remember it's not bad, it's just not me. And I don't always need to be connected, so just with intention, wipe those off, just clear them off. They don't have to be there. They'll come back if they're important enough. They'll come, what I mean? You're not going to end anything. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, like Yolanda Marie is with us. Hello, Yolanda.
Wow.
She was saying, listening to oh my God, listening to the two of you, you're like an awakening person's dream. You are amazing. Thank you.
Oh, she's so kind. Yolanda Marie just released an amazing video, by the way. I just got done watching it not too long ago. It was, if for anyone who's interested, that there's a lot of really important bits of information in there about what we're going through right now. And basically the topic that we're leading into of like, we're now moving into a new phase of experience right now, energetically, with all this stuff, the alignments that we're in right now. We're in the most perfect space for this healing. And that healing that needs to occur are the things that we chose to experience before we came to this existence. So, for instance, isn't it strange that all star seeds, awakening people, who, whatever you want to call us, all have weird trauma in our life, like had the abusive childhoods or the crazy relationships or whatever. And there's a reason for that, because it had to be experienced by us so we can heal through it in this time right now, this time. And so, a lot of us have kind of ignored those things. And when we ignore them, we imprison them, we keep them in place. They still are unresolved, they're still stuck. And so the big request right now is for us to take this time where the energy is just perfect to do so, to go within and to look at that part that we call the inner child, or the fractured self, or whatever it is, that little piece of something that you just don't want to look at. It was just more convenient to ignore. Just, you don't have to do anything with it. Just acknowledge its existence without judgment so it can be released with love, and whatever that is. It doesn't have to be something that you chew through. You don't have to figure out why it's there. Just allow it to be seen. And when we
Oh, he
do
has
that,
her own YouTube channel. Yes, please do continue. You were
oh, I
disconnected
was,
for a time. We couldn't hear you for some time. Okay, like just for a second, so I finish. Yolanda Marie has her own YouTube channel, and also, yeah, like High Vibrations was talking about her last message, and she's in contact with the Arcturians. So I basically bring through all of information from Sirius. So if you're into the Arcturian energies, then check out her channel. There's a lot of good stuff there too. It's not in the link, but you can search for it on YouTube, basically. It's easy to find. Okay, so please do continue, high vibrations. And afterwards we're going, okay, afterwards we're going to have a question from AV later on.
Okay. I'm not sure where I got lost because I couldn't tell you were gone. I kept talking.
I'm not sure where you have left off completely. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll just say what's the most important thing to know right now is there's these things that we chose to experience in this lifetime. And it's not because we were trying to torment ourselves or anything like that. They're brought into us so we can experience through it. And as we experience through these traumatic things, we're healing every identical experience that has happened. Like, we're healing for those who have passed and are no longer in this connected to this planet, except for that anchoring of that karmic baggage that's stuck behind. And so as we look at the things that we try to ignore in ourselves, the trauma, the things that we haven't completely let ourselves, you don't have to re-experience it, just acknowledge that it is. And then without judgment, release it with love. And that's really what this space is for us to do right now. And everything else is setting up for us to just be able to be in a place of peace and to look at those things. So
yeah, and I also wanted to add my twist to it. Like all of us have been going through some difficult stuff in our lives, like at a certain point, and they were basically for the reason that we are like more able to heal those parts of ourselves or to create remedies for those problems. And after we have healed that or overcame that at a certain level, then you will find that you will be like meeting people or like coming in contact with people who are having the same difficulties, but you have like already resolved that. You already have a formula for that problem, basically. So later on, you can like find that, hey, like I had all those difficult traumatic events because like now I'm better able to help other people who were going through the same stuff as I did back years ago, maybe. Okay, so Avi had a questions for which I have no answer. Okay, could you please tell who are the white-winged lions?
Wow. I don't know, but are they extra long? Their hair is extra long? Because I've seen something similar and I don't know if I would call them a lion or not. I fade in and out in my focus and as things come in because I still experience that initial shock. So I don't catch as many details. So I'm just curious if it's the same. To me, it is a resonance of love. If it's the same thing that you're discussing, that's what I experience. But I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't really know anything about lions. Like I heard about lion beings, but I'm not in contact to my knowledge. Maybe like we have a lot of connections of which we are not aware of, but I'm not aware of those parts at this time, basically.
Right. They're starting to find out more and more about, we're starting to be told finally a lot of things. But the one thing that I have found inconvenient about this experience is I would really like to have like an encyclopedia of the different, realms that come in contact with us. Like there are some places where they have some, but for the most part, it's so difficult to translate into a visual form, like a drawing, that it's very difficult to come by the answers for me. I have a bunch of different experiences that I have no idea what they are. So what I do is what's the experience I'm having with those energies? How do they feel? And if there's any kind of questions, just send love to it. If there's not even, you can send love to it. If it is of love, it will answer back with love. And if it's not, it will flee.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like Yolanda, yes, an encyclopedia, that is a great idea. Like I think like there are people who are like bringing through these channeled informations with how different beings and realms work and how they look. Like some people are doing that work. I'm not really aware of any of them very intrinsically. I haven't explored those, but I know like people were doing those stuff. I think like also the guy who from whom I shared the spiritual contract removal, Andrew Bartitz. I think like he's the I think he calls himself the galactic historian or something similar. Like he's talking about these stuff, like also historically, like what stuff happened in our galaxy and like what beings are we in contact with. But I haven't explored it very much in depth, basically. But yeah, like just as in the message that I have shared for the Portal 77, it said like after you have like sufficiently cleansed and healed yourself, like all the connections that are relevant to your journey, like will be brought to your attention, basically. So you don't have to understand everything because it's just too much. Like we're connected to so many different star systems and dimensions and different races throughout our history, basically. And I know, just focus on the ones that are relevant at this moment and like explore those and see and experience them for what they are and not what other people tell you how they are, basically. Like that's kind of one of the most difficult things to do at this time because like we have so much information overload on the internet about like, hey, if you're in contact with the Syrians, then that's how they look, like that's who they are, and so on and so forth. And maybe your experience is going to be different.
Right.
And it's kind of going to like confuse you, like, okay, like what is this then? Like this isn't what the description told me that it should be. And yeah, it's becoming confusing.
Exactly. And to remember also that it's not typical that any other energetic being cares what we call them. We care about that kind of stuff. We make the label thing really important.
Don't care. They don't even have names. They don't even have names.
Yeah, they don't.
But they like give you something because like you're more comfortable with that.
Right. You know, and so when you're if you want to call someone and not, it's not the word that you use, but it's that you're calling their resonance. Like you have an image that is presented and brought to you of that individual or that species. And so, yeah, for sure, you can still do it without a name. Just if you know you've had an experience, you know what you're calling. That's all you got to do. And you know, just remember that these experiences are. Just tread lightly, you know, don't put yourself into it too quickly because it can feel overwhelming. It's not scary. It's not. There's definitely a lot of information that has been kind of edited out of the experience for a while, you know, and to not be worried. You're okay.
You know, like meaning what you're referring to about like edited out is like that you're not remembering everything from the experience. Oh yeah,
exactly. You know, and like there's a reason for us to. That's why most of us, I'm starting to wonder how many of us have not had an ET experience, just simply that they don't recall, you know, and like, because the nature of these experiences tend to be the star seeds that are being brought to like, kind of like, they do something to like align you, you know, and then you're like, oh, I feel a million times better, thanks, you know, and it's pretty much just that. It's not, you know, and there's also some type of information update that happens that I still can't process when I'm here. But like, because it's so helping and helpful to help clear us. And, you know, all we're trying to do now is go from this denser energy space to this higher energy space. And in order to do that, there are some things that some of us are holding on to that are of that lower dimensional, that lower energy, you know, and so they can't come. They can't go through that barrier, that space. And so a lot of this assistance that we're getting is helping us to break those ties, you know, and the reason that the light is the way that it is, you know, and that message that Yolanda, I can't speak. Yolanda Marie said, posted earlier today about what's happening with the experience, and we're starting to see and feel in contact with the difference between those who are exactly awake and not exactly awake, you know, and like for that, in my experience that I'm having, it's like I'm actually seeing some people who have more vibrant color like you do, you know, and like it's almost like there are people who have a duller color to them. It's not black and white, it's just not as vibrant, you know, and like it's funny too, because when you have those interactions, it's like your parents at a playground and the kids are all playing in the middle, and you know that your interaction and focus are those children. But as you kind of come out of the circle for a minute, you kind of notice the other parent like, oh yeah, hey, you're doing this too. And then you go back in with the children, you know, and like, that's kind of what we're doing right now in a lot of ways. And we're now in this place where we can kind of step back a bit longer and kind of have a chat with the other parents, you know, and like, well, the kids, they're okay now, just, and they know where to come find you, you know, so we don't have to jump into the playground anymore. You know, we're just kind of making yourself available. And I just needed to, I think that's probably where I got cut off. That was the vision that came in when I was listening to Yolanda Marie earlier, and it felt important to share that.
Okay. Yeah, like I also got the info about, yeah, like you were talking about the ET experiences. That, yeah, like I think like many of us people who are like awakened, or you're spiritual, you're psychic, or whatever you want to call yourself, I think like to a certain extent, like I think they try to contact you or interact with you to a certain extent, but it doesn't necessarily mean like they present themselves as ETs. Like if you're into angels, or I know, like different types of beings or celestial creatures or whatever, like they can come in as symbols that make sense to you, basically. Like they don't necessarily present themselves as they are. In many cases, they don't. Especially if you're not ready, they won't do it, because for some people it can be scary or very strange. And also even today, like in the spiritual community, as I've explored stuff, they're like, it's kind of treated like an odd thing in the spiritual community. Like everyone is like so into guides and angels, ascended masters. And when you're like maybe like doing a meditation to find out who are my guides, and hey, there are some ETs, and like, oh, like I didn't think of that. That's strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in some cases, for example, especially I think in our past, like they were interpreted as like different stuff, like angels or fairies or gnomes or whatever they back then, how people interpreted those interactions basically. And even now, like some of them are like so high vibrational that you can consider it almost like angelic in nature, especially like some of them, like the Pleiadians, are like very highly evolved humanoid beings. They, from our perspective, they could almost appear like angelic, like they look like this perfected human being who's like super high vibrational and full of light and love, and it's super emotional and overwhelming to have interactions with them. And if you wouldn't know any better, you would think it's like an angel or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to think that the elves would come, and they were Syrians. I thought they were elves. And like, it's just, they come through, however, and a lot of people who may or may not have actually seen Jesus have seen Jesus, you know, and like, who knows if that individual really saw, you know, Jesus at that moment. But it's whatever it is that represents what that means to you. And most people know that Jesus is love. It's not deceptive. That really is the energy that's being presented to you, you know, and it's beautiful. We speak through symbols all the time, and everybody else does too. It's just we're not as aware of the symbols and what they mean exactly, which is kind of fun, using dream interpretation for your reality. You know, if you think about it, we are creating the illusion in front of us as we speak. And so if you can interpret your dream, you can interpret your reality in the same way, and maybe also understand some of the symbols that you've missed along the way.
Yeah, and like speaking about the symbols, like our guides are like communicating with us through symbols or like feelings, or you're having like random thoughts. Like that's kind of what we experience today too. Like we have to go to the city to pick up some documents, and there was this place where we knew that I don't know, how do you call that? Some kind of governmental building was. And we were like getting, me and my wife, a different name, like that place was named after some kind of historic figure, and like it was this different historic figure's name that was like circulating in our minds, and like we also discussed like who that guy was. And when we go to that original place, then we discover like, oh, it moved from this place to that historic guy's name's place. Okay, like, it was like in our minds that they were like communicating with us. Hey, like you should go to that place because it's there now. We are like not able at this time to like consciously like rationalize, like, okay, like why am I having those thoughts, or like what does that symbol mean? And I think like many of us are at that point in our lives, like in our journey that, okay, like I'm getting all these feelings and like signs but what does it mean?
Right.
Like in a logical, tangible sense, like what should I do or what should I do with this information basically?
Right. Yeah.
But after it happened, you get it like, oh, like that's why that happened.
I'm better at that part. I can, it's easy to be able to understand what something is trying to tell you after it's occurred. It's just figuring it out before it happens would be much more useful.
Yeah, like especially if it's something very important, like you also have with your car.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Exactly. I could tell the story if you'd like, but it's
Okay, if you want to, sure.
I had I kept getting like this deja vu with like this almost impending doom, but it wasn't like an intense one, but it was just there was a subtle like something bad's gonna happen kind of with the deja vu moments. And at the same time, I kept thinking I should go get some windshield wiper fluid for the truck. And but I had just filled it up. So but I couldn't get it out of my head. So I went ahead and got the windshield wiper fluid, but I didn't put it in the truck. I kept feeling I should do it. I should do it. And I was like, why? It's full. It doesn't even matter. It's windshield wiper fluid. We can drive just fine without it. Anyway, turns out the oil cap had been shoved underneath the accelerator. And if I would have opened the hood and looked at the windshield wiper fluid, I would have seen that the cap was gone and then figured out what had happened. But I still didn't do any of those things. And I found out as I was driving, I couldn't slow down at all. And like, anyway, we went on a really crazy ride for a while. We were okay. And there was support that came in and we were guided in the moment. And it was just, one of those things. However, if I would have been able to decipher what was going on a little easier, or just went ahead and followed my gut instinct, like it would Fritzy.
Like he's a real troll in the past few weeks.
Look at my butt. That was the end of the story anyway.
Okay. Yeah, but you were okay and you made it out alive in that situation.
Yeah.
Okay, I completely forgot what I wanted to say before Fritzy has shared his backside, so I don't remember.
Well, there's just, that I just want to reiterate it because it feels like it's important to say right now. Like a lot of us are getting these flashes that look kind of like a lot of people are misinterpreting as psychic attacks. These moments, they're literally just not even a full second of a moment that's just popping up. Weird stuff. And some people are interpreting it as past life memories. Some are, and ancestral healing, whatever. Anyway, I just want to, not to be alarmed if those things are happening. You're not being psychically attacked. These are moments that have occurred throughout time that haven't been witnessed. They've been ignored. We've been in a culture all around the world for quite some time of just push it away and ignore it. And these little loose strands are asking to be seen so they can be released. And that's all. And so just send it with love. You don't have to investigate it. You don't have to figure it out. Just send it with love.
Yeah, like there's so much stuff circulating in the collective and also what we're connected to, like karmically. It's just too much. Like, especially like at this time, there's so many things coming up on all levels that I think like consciously it would be like impossible to process everything. So just try to go with the flow and see what comes up and what is brought to your attention to be processed. And like Helen had a question, how about chakra meditation and grounding? Yeah, like I think that's also what we've been talking about, like daily maintenance or doing clearing and healing on yourself as often as you can, especially like after something has happened or that maybe you're going to have a difficult interaction with someone or some group maybe. Like always do a clearing and healing on yourself. Also grounding can help during this process, that like so many stuff is like flooding our minds and our bodies, and like keeping yourself grounded and in check can really help to ease the process. And also like a psychic protection. That's like a super quick way of like filtering out unwanted energies from your whole being, basically. Like that's kind of the basis of like every day doing it, especially before you go to bed, because like then we're like exposing ourselves even more to the weird stuff that is happening on the astral and in our subconscious. And doing protection work can really filter out the unwanted experiences from your life.
Exactly. And, just remembering that the experiences that we're in are brief moments of whatever you're going through right now is a temporary thing. When we realize that, then we kind of release it and let it go a little easier too. What?
Uh, Anouk has just said, you're talking too much when you are together. When you're both alone, then you are more interesting. I'm sorry to say this. Okay. Yeah, like maybe sometimes we like go in different directions or like in unexpected ways. I'm not sure.
We do kind of wander quite a bit.
Yeah, but I also did wander a lot, like last week. I think I covered so many different topics, like almost as in during like a channeling session or something similar. Okay, so back to the topic, kind of. Like what would you recommend to people like, okay, like we had our awakening and we're like working on ourselves and we have our spiritual practices, we're like doing clearing, meditating, doing healing in ourselves, doing introspection, like doing this inner work and basically healing everything that comes up within ourselves. But still, we're like kind of still exposed to negative experiences. Like we still go back to work, we still have family dinners with people that we don't enjoy to be around, basically. Because, like, regardless if we're like, progressing on our spiritual journey and like we're becoming more integrated, we're still living here and we're still going to have interactions with people that are not in resonance with us, basically. But like along the way, we can like learn to better navigate those situations. Like especially I think like family interactions are very difficult, especially if like they don't understand you, like where you come from, and why are you so weird? And why do you think all those strange stuff when it makes no sense to anyone else, just you? And yeah, like you're just so isolated and weird and alone. And like, how could you best navigate this to make it easier for yourself?
Really good question. Like all of us, we all have this interaction. We have to do something like that in our lives. I don't know anyone who doesn't, but there probably are some. For me, the bathroom was really the safest, most expected place. Yeah, like you don't have to really be used in the facilities to be using it for yourself. Like it's a good place to recenter, to pull away from the energy, to do a real short meditation. 5 minutes is really all you need. The longer you go, you get different experiences, but not even 5 minutes. If you've done it for a while, you can get to that 0 point a lot faster. That helps pull your energy back and deal with, and then kind of, okay, here we go. And then like you go back in the game again, and like, also with family, there's an understanding of, I call it being an introvert. I don't know what it really is, but that's what it's being called right now. Because I'm an introvert, I need to have moments where I can have alone time, and my family or people I'm doing things with know that about me. And so if I go into this family gathering, I'm going to disappear now, and then I'll like go outside or somewhere away from them, so I can regenerate, realign, and then go back in the game, and it's just like, it's also a different thing too, that I'm presenting an image, not an image, information through my experience. They're able to see me if I continue to maintain some kind of contact, not to sacrifice myself. If you're not okay and you can get out of it, I will. But if you're already in those situations, it's useful to know that you're bringing some kind of light to that experience. So yeah. And also Another good thing to do, if you can have like earbuds like Guardian has, and like have high frequency music, you can just Google that on YouTube and it pops up so many different things. Just have it playing in the background. It lightens the experience. And the most important of all these things is to remember, when I'm sending love out to all of these things, it's a buffer. Not only am I helping them with their experience to lighten what they're going through, and so they're not so chaotic and angry right then, but it's also stopping the anger or irritation from making contact with my auric field, and so we're helping them, and we're also squashing that nastiness from sticking to me.
Yeah, and if there are like people who are very much into that negativity, then you will find that after a time they like disappear, or like they find a way to like disengage with you and like get out of there.
Yeah.
Because they like can't really take that energy for some reason. Like even if they have no clue like what is happening, they just feel this repulsion or something, and they just have to leave. That's always a lot of fun, especially if you have like done some kind of protection work or like sending energy towards them like consciously, and after a few seconds you see like, okay, like disengage, like I'm out of here.
Yeah, almost like it's causing them disharmony. They just feel it's like another thing too, if you can stand barefoot on the ground, in the grass, in the dirt, anything like that, whether or not you're doing a family thing, but like if you feel like you are just, the energy's too much, nature, if all you can do is bring dirt into your house from wherever you got it from, bring it in your house and just set your feet on top of it, that helps too. You're ionizing it. We collect all of this energy garbage around us that just, sparks of stuff that need to go someplace, and that's what the earth's job is for us. And if we don't walk around barefoot anymore, then we got to find a way to do it, so. And then also there's minerals and things that absorb through those big soles or pores in the soles of our feet that we don't get from anywhere else usually. So
yeah, like we were designed to function that way. Like our body was designed to function that way, and like we have consciously removed ourselves from that natural state, and so like we have deficiencies and like energetic imbalances. And if you look in nature, like all the animals are walking barefoot basically. Yes. And they're like still connected to that flow of nature and to that grounding and nourishing energy. And yeah, like if you don't do that regularly or as often as you can, doing clearing on yourself, then all those energies are like building up in specific spots in your body, causing pains, inflammation, or some kind of blockages basically, which later can turn into some kind of physical stuff as well if you don't address it. And sometimes you can find, if you're like having difficulties with your legs or in some parts of your body, you have these blockages. And if you're doing this clearing, you can also like sit on the ground, like that's also pretty good.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, then you will find that it gradually like subsides, because like you're discharging and letting go of all that built up energy from your body, and you're allowing yourself to regenerate much better than basically just holding on to that, all that garbage basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you're not able to stand barefoot, that's okay too. You can also, if you can go to a tree, the tree huggers were right. You can like get the energy, the beauty. It's really a wise, awesome energy that comes in through those trees, like just to like connect, and that exchange occurs in that way too. There's even a potted plant, the larger the plant, the more powerful, of course, but any of these things are useful. And just to listen to your body, that's an important thing that a lot of us have taught ourselves not to do. Your body's telling you what it needs, and right now typically everybody's needing a lot of extra water and lighter foods, and lighter means the higher water content of the food, the lighter that it is, the easier that a higher frequency energy can move through it and actually assist you, which is why many of us have slowly stopped eating diets with meat in. Not everybody, but for a lot of us, that's becoming such a common occurrence. They have a thing here in America. They're saying the doctors are calling it a meat allergy, because so many people's bodies are no longer tolerating it, which is fascinating.
Same here. Okay, so Helen had a question, or at least statement. This is my first year spiritually with the 7-7 portal. It is new to me. So today is to remove the blockages, release those blockages so I can manifest or do my purpose. Is this correct? Yeah, like I think you can use it for whatever purpose like you intend these energy times, basically, just as with the full moon or new moons, basically, like they each have kind of their purpose. Like as far as I understand right now, we're very much aligned with our spiritual sons, Sirius, basically. Like there are spiritual teachers. They have been our teachers going back many thousands of years. And yeah, like I think for at least for me, it's like connecting back to those energies and like reintegrating stuff that were lost or forgotten for me. That's kind of what it represents for me. But I guess like other people can use it for different purposes.
Yeah, I mean, basically what it, like you said, it's bringing you a harmonious space for healing. And healing can be all different kinds of things, like we have spiritual and physical and all the, for it as it, and our bodies are changing to a point where we can self-heal a lot more rapidly than ever before. I had a firework blow up in my fingers and I just have calluses there now. It's just like but anyway, just these different weird things that are we can do with this energy. It's whatever your intention and whatever has been ignored, you know and as these energetic spaces are brought to us, we're also going through, they're sending us more energy, so it's like amplifying these experiences. We're also going through the Syrian gateway, which is like that alignment of the star of Sirius. As it aligns with our sun, it amplifies the experience that's coming to us, and that experience is that love. God is nothing but the purest and most perfect love. And the opposite of that is fear. When we have those moments of fear, they're temporary, you're okay. But just know that the more that you can live and experience in that space of the love resonance, the easier the whatever it is you're going through will be. Because that's being your true self. All else is being contrary to self. And that's disruptive for that moment.
Yeah, like I also want to say something regarding the Syrians, but I don't remember correct. Yeah, like yeah, I remember. Okay, my internet problem. I hope everyone can hear us. Can you hear me? Higher vibrations?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I hope it's not from my end. And yeah, like regarding these portals and these alignments, basically, like what everyone can use them for. Like in the beginning, I think like also it was very similar with me too. Like I was listening to people having all these incredible spiritual experiences and I didn't. And basically when these portals were happening or these alignments were occurring, I was like using it for healing myself or like working on very basic stuff. And you can basically see it as in the beginning, you actually have to like clear out all the debris and work on yourself so you're healed as possible. And the more you do that, the easier like the higher connections can come into your life because you're can interpret it much more easily and you're like much closer to it as resonance wise, basically.
Right.
But if you like like you want to go to there directly without like doing any of the proper work, then you can like connect to like lower dimensional stuff basically because you haven't done all the busy work of like clearing yourself and working through all your fears and like limiting belief systems. So when you're like opening yourself up to the greater cosmos and spirit and all that, then basically all the beings who are close to that like to that unhealed and disrupted resonance, like they are the ones who are going to come in basically because that's closest to where you are at that time.
As a mirror to show you where you are too. And the experiences that we're in, we have designed previous to help us and to send us up to that space. Before I understood what any of these gateways or portals or anything were, I used to experience it in a very traumatic way. It would be like PTSD, all of this really bad stuff just coming up and like feeling like I was attacked by my past in a it was just almost a nonstop feeling. I don't know if that was actually accurate of my experience of it, but that's how I interpreted it. And it was very difficult for me. Now that I know what it is, knowledge for me, every time I know what something is, it changes everything about it, but now that I know what these portals are, and that when they occur, I can not only prepare for it, but understand that what's happening, instead of like being attacked by my past, there are things that were left unresolved were being asked to be looked at. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to do any special work. And those things that need to be healed for us, you don't need to go seek them out. Be open to the possibility of looking at them, and they will come to you. They will present themselves to you. You don't need to dig, and like the idea that we need to add so much extra work to it kind of changes the frequency of the experience a little bit, at least for me. But just, allow yourself to be in a place of peace, and whatever comes up, address. Just, and knowing what it is, knowing that it's coming. The 8-8 portal, I've always found that Lionsgate portal that's coming up next month, I always found to be the most intense. And I honestly, most every year became rather suicidal during that time, before I understood what was happening. Because again, all of these past things were coming up, and it was overwhelming. I come from, just like all of us, a very traumatic childhood. And there was a lot that I had left unseen and that needed to be witnessed so it could move on. And so it's kind of hard.
Yeah, and just what you have said, like you don't have to seek out these stuff. Like depending on where you are in your journey, your higher self will always like bring through what is most relevant at that moment in time. And yeah, like, and basically also like in the mystical teaching, it says like only by knowing can you overcome and basically like navigate all these situations. And we all have this like rhythmic flow in our lives, like having more high vibrational times, having lower vibrational times, like having great time, then difficulties happen in our lives. And like that's completely normal. And there's nothing basically you can do against it other than like acknowledge it and basically like work with the process and in the flow, basically. Like that's where it comes, that's where the mastery kind of comes in. So you're like not going against the flow of nature, basically you're just working with it and like becoming one with it and using it to your advantage, basically, because these negative stuff are being brought up not to bring you down or to cause you harm. They're there to, okay, like now it's an awesome time to work on that right now for you, and use it for what it's there for, basically. And sometimes like this downtime, or when you're like feeling, maybe even if you're sick or something happened, it can also be like a sign that, okay, like you should stop right now, just, I don't know, like take a step back and reflect or relax or something, and just stop what you're doing.
Right. And a lot of us do find ourselves in those situations early on that maybe are ignoring the awakening experience or something, and an outside whatever makes us stop. Whether we have an accident, you hear about all these different car accidents that were the trigger or catalyst for a lot of people's awakening trauma and things. I've had a bunch of near-death experiences, and each time for me it was a different kind of catalyst. Like we all have these things that come in, but they don't have to. Those things come in for people like me who are stubborn and don't really want to know, and so, okay, fine, I'm gonna make it, basically. And it's not to cause you harm, but it's to help you to, like you said, just stop and experience, witness this and be in this. And so you can heal through it and move on. They're assisting us to go up to this place that we came here to do to begin with. We're just kind of forgotten a lot of the information beyond the veil experience.
Yes. Yeah, like that's kind of also what happened to me in the past month. Yeah, like if anyone remembers, we skipped on having live events for 3 weeks. Kind of.
Yeah.
We usually don't do that, but yeah, I just couldn't be on the camera, basically. I completely lost my voice. So I sounded like a heavy chain smoker. Okay. So in closing, do you want to share anything? Maybe the live events that you're holding?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, so we're having we've changed our time on Fridays to 3 p.m. Is it? Yes, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Um, I every time before our Zoom meetings, I always put in my community section on my YouTube channel. I will post the link for it. It's a different link for each meeting as it occurs. We do also Sundays and Tuesdays. Tuesdays at the time that this is aired, and on Sundays it's at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's free, and we don't ever record or air it. It's just a bunch of us, like you said earlier, gathering together and just being with the other parents for a while, basically while the kids play at the playground. You know, it's nice to not have to explain yourself and just be in a space where the energy is like the same as yours, you know, happy and light. So anyway, you're free to join.
Yeah, there are awesome gatherings like with like-minded people. Highly recommend it. It's like very refreshing to act, even if you like don't talk. Like some people choose not to appear on camera, or they just listen in. But just like listening to like-minded people, they're like, oh, like I'm not that alone or not that isolated anymore, basically.
Yeah. And you can type in the chat and I'll read it out loud to the group. And there's people that come in and do that. They typically slowly eventually end up turning on their cameras, but you're not expected to. You never have to.
Okay, so thank you for joining us, High Vibration, for this
you.
event. Thank you for everyone being here, and hopefully we can meet next week if everything goes well.
Maybe you can do solo next week and see how you do.
Okay.
If you feel like it.
Okay, we will see. Let's see what happens next week. Okay, so thank you for being here, everyone. Lots of love to everyone.